Alright fellas, what's going on? Denonu here, the man with the most biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And we're going to be talking about the X-Men movie that's coming up. The Apocalypse one. And as somebody who grew up with X-Men, let me say that, I'm a huge X-Men fan. Grew up with the franchise since like the mid-80s. Just like with the Suicide Squad movie, I'm not that pumped for it. I'm not. Everything that I'm seeing about it is rubbing me the wrong way. I mean, I don't know what it is. Well, I know exactly what it is. I'm not a fan, but unlike Suicide Squad, I mean, I'm not a fan of the actors that they have playing in this movie, and the costume choices. I mean, there's a lot about this movie I'm not feeling. I mean, I'm sure it's gonna sell millions of dollars. I'm sure it's gonna put in work at the box office. I mean, it's probably gonna be the third biggest comic book movie next to probably Civil War and the Batman and Superman one. This is probably gonna be number 3. But I'm not feeling it. I mean, it's the whole premise behind the movie. I mean, them doing Apocalypse, I'm not mad at. I'm really not. I hate the way he looks. I mean, granted, I know it's a movie, but just like I said in my last Suicide Squad trailer video where I talked about that, is you can do a hell of a lot with CG. Like, I personally just think he looks like shit. He's not bad. Like, I've seen worse, don't get me wrong. I've seen like the shitty Marvel movies from way back in the day, like the Captain Americas and the Fantastic Fours. I've seen really, really bad comic book movies. This isn't like extremely bad, but when you just compare the character to the TV show or the 90s cartoon or to the comic book, I mean, he just looks like shit. And if it were me doing the movie, I would redo it a little bit differently. Maybe make him look more like they made him look in the 90s cartoon, or maybe some kind of variation of that, and maybe CG him. So where most of the time you saw him, he was bigger and taller and buffer, kind of like Marvel did with the Incredible Hulk. The storyline of the movie, don't really have a problem with. I have a problem with the actors from First Class. Not a fan. From most of them. I think the only ones who I really like from that franchise is probably I forgot the guy's name, but Professor Xavier and Magneto. I'm sorry. Those two guys were like the best thing that came out of First Class. And then Days of Future Past. Everybody else to me was shit in First Class. I hated that movie, besides the ending when he put on that Magneto helmet and came floating out of that submarine talking about brothers. I was like, that was some hot shit. That was some Magneto shit. I was feeling it, YouTube. But in this movie, the new chick being Mystique, the chick from Hunger Games, I think that's the movie she plays in. Her playing Mystique, I don't have a problem with. I have a problem with her not being blue, because that's like most of Mystique's thing. She doesn't want to be normal. She embraces who she is, and to have that chick not be blue in a movie is like, what the fuck? It's like, you're not playing Mystique then, that really pisses me off. And I remember reading a few articles where they was talking about, oh, well, it takes her 12 hours to be in makeup. And I'm like, ain't she getting paid millions and millions of dollars to do that shit? Just saying. You signed up for that movie. They're not forcing you to do it. So I'm like, if you're going to play that character, then look, be fucking blue. Hell, bring back, what was her name? Rebecca Remain Stamos or whatever. Didn't she, the chick that played her before, where she was actually blue and actually was badass and looked more sexy. But anyway, everybody else in the movie, I also hate the way they look. I'm sorry. Jubilee is probably the closest one where it's like, okay, looks okay. Nightcrawler looks like shit. Who else? My baby girl from back in the day, Psylocke, one of my favorite X-Men characters ever. I'm sorry, chick from Attack of the Show should have stayed on Attack of the Show. Her ass is not sexy in any way, shape, or form to me, personally. I know the movie's not tailor-made for me, but I'm just saying. I mean, if you're gonna get somebody to play Psylocke, at least get some, get a chick that has a figure. I mean, chick don't got no ass, no curves, nothing. Storm's look, again, looks kind of weird, but hey, the movie takes place in the 80s. Storm was kind of sort of rocking a mohawk in the 80s in the comic book, so hey, look, makes it fit. However, I have a problem with them using X-Men characters that, let's say, I'm not going to say they weren't around in the 80s, or at least in the comic book. I'm not saying that they got to make the comic book. That's not where I'm going with this, but they're using popular characters and, oh, let's make them horsemen. It's like, no, they weren't fucking horsemen. Apocalypse had horsemen. You can bring in those actual horsemen from the comic books. They just won't be, Psylocke, Storm. I mean, it seems like it's redundant. I mean, they were X-Men. They're the ones who fought fucking Apocalypse. They're not his, maybe, I would say keep Archangel because he was like one of the first ones. But I'm just saying, the people that they're choosing to play the horsemen, I don't like. I'm not saying that they gotta be in the movie, but I'm just saying, I mean, if you gonna, let's say, bring in Storm, you already had Storm. You could have left Storm out of the movie completely. You didn't have to bring her back. Bring in a new mutant. Bring in somebody different that we haven't seen before. Be creative for once when writing a movie. Psylocke. Oh god, I just hate that chick. That chick from Attack of the Show. Not a fan of hers. Hers at all. She reminds me of the chick from Transformers, and I like her even less. But just not feeling the movie, YouTube. I'm really not. There's nothing about the movie, probably besides Professor Xavier and Magneto, that's keeping me invested in the franchise. I'm one of those people who, let's say, watched X-Men back in the day in the cartoon, seen all the movies when they came out, and I'm not one of those kind of people who, let's say, oh, I like the older movies but hate the new movies, because the older movies had flaws too, a lot of them. I like both things from both of them. I thought Days of Future Past was actually okay. It wasn't great, but I still loved it for what it was. I loved that movie. And I know they're spinning off of that into these newer form of movies, but I just think that they could do it a little bit better. I don't know if this is going to be their last movies, because I know before the trailers came out, I heard rumors that the guy who was playing Magneto and the guy who was playing Professor X was like, this is their last one. I'm hoping that's not the case, but if it is, I would have rather them fought each other. Like if this was going to be the last movie with them in it, I would have done a whole different story. I wouldn't have did Apocalypse at all, because Apocalypse, he's like the X-Men's version of like how Thanos is in the Marvel universe for their movies. That's like Apocalypse for X-Men. Like when he comes about, you have to have your ducks in a row. Like you have to show Cable coming back. Like they should have had Cable coming back at the end of Days of Future Past, talking about like, I'm here to solve a problem, and then cut it right then and there when he met like the X-Men or some shit. Like you have to set up Apocalypse. You just don't do Apocalypse. Like I feel like they're doing Apocalypse like they're doing fucking Doomsday and the Batman and Superman movie, where they're just having them just to have them. But I'll get into that bullshit in in another video. That's definitely coming. That's probably gonna be a half-hour rant by itself. But anyway, in this movie, like I said, I feel like they doing it, that they're doing Apocalypse, and I feel like they're not rushing it. They're taking their time. They're doing their thing, but they're definitely trying to pay respect to at least the characters that matter. They're actually showing them in costume for once. Really surprised by that. Liking those a lot. That's another thing, that's good with the movie. But I just think that if this is gonna be, I think this might be the last X-Men movie before we get like another X-Men reboot movie that's gonna reboot every damn thing. And if that's the case, I would have rather this movie been, like I said before, Professor Xavier and his X-Men versus Magneto. You bring back Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. You bring back that 90s aesthetic X-Men where, like, at the end of Days of Future Past, when you've seen everybody there, bring back those people. Have Magneto, you know, maybe even pull a scene out of Ultimate X-Men where he like flooded the East Coast, or where he flew down to the Earth's magnetic field and cut it and like put an EMP on the whole planet, and they all had to, you know, or hell, maybe pull that one scene out of the comic book where they all, you know, where they had to go to Asteroid M to fight Magneto and he ripped the adamantium out of Wolverine's body. Do that shit on film. Why can't we get that? But anyway, maybe I'm just talking out of my ass, you know, like I don't know some shit. But it seems to me that with these newer comic book movies, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do them. Like I said in my last Suicide Squad video, I'm a fan of comic books in general. I like them all, from Marvel, DC, Independent. I'm not a Marvel fanboy. I'm not a DC fanboy. I'm not gonna knock one franchise and not knock another one. Cause hell, I like comic books. I watch all of these fucking movies several times. But it hurts me because I treat my comic book and my love for comic books kind of like my love for anime and gaming. It's a huge passion of mine. Me and my brothers will get into arguments all night talking about comic book characters or anime or games and stuff, and it'll be like an 8-hour conversation, and we'd be like, damn, only 1 hour passed. Well, that's what it feels like, but it's really like 8 hours. So I have a huge love for these comic book movies, and it's just when I see the flaws to me are so apparent. It's kind of, I ask myself, well, why didn't they do it this way? Why didn't they do it that way? And I know they probably have their reasons, but most of the nitpicks that I have with these comic book movies are really small. I was like, if you're gonna do it right. You know what I'm saying? Do the shit badass. Like if this is supposed to be the last X-Men movie, how badass would it be if you saw Hugh Jackman get killed at the end of the movie when he got the adamantium ripped out? If they did that scene, and let's say that's how they was gonna reboot Wolverine, was that you had the big fight with Magneto, him being badass like he is, you know, loving the new Magneto, being all angry and shit, you know, showing him Professor Xavier walking in that little suit that he had and stuff. It would have been hot to see Hugh Jackman like rush up on Magneto and have the movie Magneto give, you know, Hugh Jackman that comic book Magneto speech before he ripped the adamantium right through the pores of his skin. Oh, that would have been epic. That would have been like something like, you know, watching, you know, the death of Superman on film for the first time. But anyway, that's just been my thoughts about the new X-Men movie. Like I said, I'm probably more pumped for this than I am for Suicide Squad or anything else, but I'm not, you know, overly excited about it where it's like, oh man, I gotta see this movie, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm far from that. Just because I'm not liking the characters in it, like I said. But let me know which characters you like from the movie, what you guys would do. Like if you guys was in the driver's seat of that movie, in the boardroom, you know, throwing darts at the wall, making all the big decisions and signing all the checks, what things would you change in the movie and how would you do it? Anyways, my name is Denonu, the man with the most biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube, and I'll see you guys in the next commentary video. Peace out.